Eric, I'm very sorry about your thyroid. I had the same thing. Your prognosis is good. Hang tough.
Oh, good.
Wow. Okay, well, right now there's two people that, well, there's three, but Susan Ray is coming later. But Rachel's not here and Ashley's not here. So Les and Liza, you both have voting privileges. Thank you. Okie dokes. Let's see, find my stuff here. All right. So we are going to call this meeting to order. It is December the 11th, 2024, and this is the meeting of the Carbondale, Colorado Parks and Recreation Commission. We're an advisory commission made up of volunteers to assist and consult with town staff and make recommendations to our elected town officials. My name is Hollis Sutherland. I'm honored to be chair for the commission for this year, and I'm joined by fellow volunteers Rose Rosello, Rachel Blackman Perkins, Ashley Haight-Manick, Leslie Keary, Eric Lamb, Susan Ray, Drew Sorensen, and our youth commissioner, Liza Logan. And we're joined by Carbondale staff, Eric Brenlinger, our Parks and Recreation Director, Margaret Donnelly, Community Center and Recreation Programs Manager, and our fantabulous Boards and Commission Clerk, Kay McDonald. Erica Sparhawk is our Board of Trustee Liaison, and I welcome anyone who may be watching live or via recording. Thank you for participating in your local government. We honor diverse opinions, promote inclusivity, and endeavor to keep our discourse civil and respectful. So we are going to get started with reviewing and approving the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Are there any edits, any comments?
None. I would move to approve the Parks and Rec November minutes.
Okay, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moving on, we have no citizens here that are not on the agenda.
We do.
Oh, yes, we do. We got Brian. Come on, belly on up here, Brian.
Everybody, this is Brian Freilich, and so he is our new aquatics coordinator and health and wellness coordinator for the town of Carbondale. So he's been working. We threw him right into it. Like literally the week before the turkey trot. We just said, "Here we go." And, by the way, you're in charge of timing. And so he's doing a great job for us. And then, of course, you know, he was dressed up as a snowman for, you know, for Friday. And so, yeah, he's starting to see exactly what this department's all about.
Perfect.
And really wrapping his head around what working for the Carbondale Parks and Rec will be like. So hopefully he's been enjoying it. I think he has. But I'd love to give you guys a chance to just ask me questions or Brian, just kind of maybe give these guys a quick synopsis of where you came from and what your experience is and why we stole you from Snowman. Yeah.
Unless you want to stand.
Or stand at the podium. Either way, you're
Got choices.
join the circle.
Light on. All right. I've been in the Valley now about 5.5 years, a little more. I spent my time before here working full-time for the town of Snowmass Village. There I had the chance to work in a very similar role to this one without the fundraising aspect, but then also worked for kids camp, charge of pickleball, adult leagues, variety of other things, and been enjoying it so far here and excited to keep going with it.
Great. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
I've had an opportunity to be in a few meetings with you with fundraising and seeing you at the rec center and stuff like that. And you're going to be a great addition. So welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Brian?
What's your favorite stroke?
Uh,
What's your favorite stroke?
Man, I probably like doing the side stroke the most.
Me too.
Yeah.
If there was competition
life
It's
inside,
also such a
stroke,
weird
I
one
would
that
have
most
been
people
all
don't
over
know.
Lifeguard stroke.
Cool.
All right.
So, yeah, coming down here to Carbondale, what pulled you away from Snowmass? What was the interest or what?
So, eventually would like to move into a position similar to what Margaret's doing or Eric's doing and move up the ladder a little higher. And, the interest was the pool and being able to take on such a big
Mhm.
project before it opens
Mhm.
and then opening a new facility is huge. And, family wise, we live in Glenwood and we have a little one welcoming on the way and,
Oh,
a
congrats.
shorter commute will be much looked forward to
Totally.
having that welcomed. So.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, Brian, I'm super happy to see you down here. I've seen you, I'm Drew Little Blue Preschool. We've been up at Snowmass Rec.
Yeah.
You doing programs. I can speak highly for everything that you do up there. Also your email, it has been passed on up the ladder for us and, we'd love to get you into the school as well. So just happy to have you here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you are welcome to stay.
I might hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, great.
We
Hang
also don't have
out.
to, because you've probably been working.
Yeah.
I'm
it's-
curious what Eric's gonna
it's-
say
it's-
about the pool here, so.
It's both and, right. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is talking about our vice chair, having a vice chair. And I sent, first off, I want to acknowledge Rose for everything she's done for all these years as the vice chair. And also recognizing changes happen and trying to keep all those plates spinning, how challenging that can be. And I think it's a sign of a true leader when you know that you can't do it all. And,
Well, I'm
and,
in
and
this whole
admit
committee
it.
to be a part of the government, and now that I work 40 hours a week for the government as well.
That's
It's
enough
like
government, huh?
like a
It's a lot of
busman's
government stuff,
holiday.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway,
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed partnering with you. And we're not done.
Gonna cry.
No, we're not done. So I sent out position descriptions that we had kind of adopted a while back to give people an idea. And they're not meant to be intimidating. They're meant to be informative of kind of like what expectations are, but in my roles on different various boards, it's always, how does the chair or the president and the vice president, the chair, how do they partner together? And how do you get into a rhythm and how do you make things work? And, I just wanted to highlight some of the key responsibilities, which is, running the meeting when the chair's not there. Being informed and engaged on current commission activities, which most of y'all, y'all are doing that anyway. And so collaborating with the chair and the director on those items, as things come up, helping to form the agendas, serving as a sounding board. Another key responsibility with this position is that you're probably the primary, if not an additional point of contact for commission members, especially when there's concerns or issues with the chair. That you've got somebody else to go to.
And I'll give you all the notes.
And all that. Yeah, I know, she's got it. So you can pass that down. And, and then because things come up. But so that's just another thing that happens. Leadership really should not be based on seniority. It's not who's been on the commission the longest that the cream, rises to the top. It's really should be based on skill sets. And quite frankly, as I look around this table, I see a table of leaders. Every single one of you on this commission, and even those that are not here right now, or the ones that are remote, is really a table of leaders. And that includes Liza. Oh yeah, for sure. So, I'm really proud of what we've all built together. in networking and bringing really fabulous people onto this commission. So with that said, I hope you all have considered whether you're interested in this role or not. And does anyone want to express any interest or nominate somebody or?
You can nominate yourself.
I think I would like to throw Ashley Edgemanick's name in the ring for vice chair. I think with the projects that we have coming up, her expertise, as well as her time on the commission, is super valuable. And so I would like to nominate her.
Okay. I did talk with Ashley. She said she would do it if absolutely nobody else was interested. I think she's, what she was expressing to me is still trying to figure out managing two young ones and work and everything like that too. So,
I'd like to nominate Drew. I appreciate what Drew has to say at these meetings. I haven't been to a lot so far, but it seems like you put in some time to know what's going on and you'd be approachable, I think.
Second nominations?
Do you accept it?
I do accept the nomination. It has been something I've been interested in, and so would be very happy to do so.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any input on that?
I second Drew's nomination. I don't know, I've worked with him as a leader in my children's preschool and many other facets, and he's always got a smile on his face, no matter how serious the topic, and there it comes with a plethora of intelligence that will bring. And let's see, I really like, you're very, how do I say it, gracious when you talk with people and considerate, and you're really making sure that they're being seen, and you're thankful for what they're bringing to the meetings. I feel like whenever I've seen it, which is all important to do here.
Mhm. Okay. Anyone else?
Give me the wink. I'm still looking at anybody.
So.
I wanted to nominate you, but I didn't know if you would want it, so I.
Me too.
It doesn't matter, you do it anyway. So, okay, the way this will work then is next month we'll vote. And I'm guessing Ashley would prefer to slide off, but I'll confirm that with her. So next month, so January, we vote on that with Drew and possibly Ashley. Okay. All right, very good. All right, Eric, Gwen, is she coming? We're a little ahead of schedule. About 5 minutes. So.
This is the time for you to do your customary dance.
You're
welcome to prepare for the
Oh, they forgot to tell you that, huh? Okay, we'll be ready in January.
Did we already talk about the turkey trot and how awesome that was? That was amazing.
It's a
Dang it. Okay, we gotta wait till later. I just can't contain it.
Eric, do you want to skip ahead to what would be? Oh, right on time, right on schedule. We're ahead of schedule for a change, Gwen. All right.
Just so you know, I did include that workshop flyer as an attachment in our agenda, just so we do have access to look at that, flyer that we'll fill us in on all that. So.
Great.
Catch your breath.
Mm-hmm. So welcome, Gwen. Thanks for coming tonight and bringing us up to date. Make sure your mic's on with the little red light.
How do I?
There it
is
Oh,
that
there you
working?
go.
Good.
Okay, great.
Totally good.
So as you can see from the flyer, there was a community gathering that happened. An author who has been part of the Transition Town movement. Is anybody familiar with that at all? Started in the UK, an effort to help communities get out in front of kind of creating the kinds of supports and connections and foundations in communities so that they would be resilient enough and sustainable enough and have things in place to be able to meet the now not reversible impacts of climate that we're starting to see happen. It was based on getting out in front of peak oil, but now we're seeing all the other needs with communities in terms of adaptation, adapting to a different kind of world. I think most of you are familiar with the climate action plan that we've been working with that's mainly based on decarbonization, which is super needed. But there's this whole area of climate action that's adaptive. And that's what regeneration really focuses on, is really with a priority of healthy ecosystems and water cycles and the kind of land-based actions that are needed to keep our communities functioning, because we're so, especially here, more and more realizing how we need to keep an eye on keeping our water cycles really healthy. So I brought a couple of things in the workshop that we did with Dawn and myself on Saturday. We kind of took the ideas from his book and applied them to a case study looking at the nature park. Because that's been such a beloved piece of land and a valued piece of land, and so much community effort and planning has gone into that over the years, starting with, the major master planning that the town paid, I think, about 30 grand for, to really look at what a built out plan could be. But then, the funding that may have gone into doing some of that work got directed toward the recreation center, which became the priority at that point. So over the years, the nature park has kind of, from these original, sort of documents and plans, has just been on the back burner. And so we thought we'd look at, what was some of the wisdom and direction that came out of that planning, and what did we think, should be sort of a priority now that, it's still relevant to the planning that was done in the past. Because whenever there's really good community work done, it's nice to kind of have some continuity and not get abandoned. So a couple of things just to refresh your memory around some of the work that was done on the park. And I'm reading from Jeff Jackel's 2009 memo about recommendations that they came up with, kind of unearthing the things that had happened in 2002 and 2003. So he says the goal of the 2003 Delaney Master Plan study was achieved by creating a park design through community evaluation, input, and consent. So there was a lot of community work and surveys and stuff that were done back then. The ideas incorporated into the plan included resource conservation, wildlife habitat creation, wetland enhancement, creation and restoration, and environmental education. Because of the design of the park was mainly for a passive outdoor nature experience, the Parks and Rec Commission appropriately named the site Carbondale Nature Park. So that's just a little background. And then some of the main recommendations that we thought were still really relevant. There was work done around like looking at the wetlands because there's some significant wetlands there. And this says the prior wetlands study determined that the park was about 55% wetlands. Whether that's still the case, because there's been some shifting of the ecosystem down there, I think that may be a little bit different, but there are some places that are really important wetlands. So what else? Oh, and this recommendation says, until development of future park site amenities begin, which didn't happen, consider an off-leash large fenced dog park area established away from best wildlife habitat areas. It would be the recommendation of staff that the BOT establish and enforce a policy requiring dogs to be kept on leash while outside of the fenced dog park area. So when we were down there and kind of looking again at some wetland areas and just sort of the dynamics of the park, it feels like it's important to keep some of those places protected. And whether that's by fencing or by some natural barriers, like planting some native trees or shrubs that could maybe, this was recommended that it be looked at for, some natural buffers to protect some of the wetland areas. So, these are things we thought, maybe, could not be such a big lift and not super expensive, but really protect some of the delicate places there. And when they did the original citizen survey for the area, the number 1 and 2 priorities were natural passive area, so the delineated wetland areas, and walking trails for leashed dogs outside of wetland areas. So those feel like kind of important things to look at because that hasn't been happening down there. And there's some significant degradation that's happened because of the heavy dog use, which again, it's like that's obviously a community value to have that space there, but maybe it's time to look at how we create a plan that can both keep that available at some level and protect some of the habitat that's kind of creating an anchor for that whole ecosystem down in that area. So those were some of the things that came out of really looking at the nature park. But I did want to share just a couple of things that came out of Don's presentation on his book. He made a point to kind of preface the presentation with reminding us that we're alive in this vast moment of growth I mean, our population has, on the globe, has exploded really over, if you look at the breadth of time. And we need to be leaders in degrowth right now to measure success in other ways. And degrowth looks like living as simply as we can in order to protect the ecosystems and our relationship to the land that supports us. Yeah, and he said it's not about having a lower quality of life. It's about having a higher quality of connection to the earth and each other. So I just thought that was helpful to kind of, as a reminder. We did go through a process of listing community assets, and I thought you would like to know that what came out on that. One of the things was the park system in town. People really thought of that as a great asset. And when we looked at needs, a couple of things I thought were relevant were really good land stewardship, monitoring the soil and biodiversity of all kinds of species. And I think our integrated weed management plan has been a great sort of entree into that arena. But that's a place where, there's a lot of priority and a lot of need. One of the needs that was also brought out was research of lands where regeneration is needed. So, looking at the nature park and really getting clear about what kind of degradation is happening and, what could be done in terms of regeneration. Other things that were mentioned were a community farm. We're seeing a lot more models of those around the country where it can be a public-private partnership and, bigger than a community garden, but a place where, and I think there is the potential for partnership with some local nonprofits to help incubate local food growers and give them land that they can, grow food on. It's obviously not happening. No young farmers can get access to land around where we live. I mean, it's very difficult. There are a few small programs, but so I think it's incumbent upon municipalities to start to look for those opportunities to use land for food production, what that could look like with local resources. We do have some great nonprofits that also have that goal of incubating more local food production. And it could be time to really kind of take that on in earnest. And that went along with sort of better use of the nature park. So one of the things that was sort of a small lift in terms of food production was to use the already fenced area of the solar panels, because there's a program now called agrovoltaics, which is growing food in the land being used for solar arrays. And so we have that opportunity down there. I don't know who would take that on, but again, that could be something that the town offered, and to make that land available to someone who maybe wanted to have a small food production effort. So that's a potential. Another thing that needs to happen down there in terms of use of the nature park is there are some fruit trees that were planted a while ago adjacent to the solar array, and those need some fencing to protect them and keep them growing more healthily. So those are some small things that could start to keep that really precious piece of land healthy, and maybe start to look for some creative public-private partnerships to, just keep an eye on what's possible in terms of food production in that area. And then maybe catalyze some ideas for other places that might be possible. I know there's been some efforts in the land right behind Town Hall over the years. I think it was originally thought that that could be, more of a food production area. So that's maybe another area to look at, like what could be possible there, if people knew that that was available. So those are just some of the ideas that came out of that, that community work, that we thought it would be. Just make sure there's nothing else that I wanted to share. Yeah, I think we said it all. Yeah, the walking trail, that's, the loop of the dog park is pretty hard to even walk in, in that time frame of the year. Like it's probably starting to get mostly frozen now, but it's 10 feet wide in areas right now of mud. And that's a tough thing for the land to deal with, just makes the weed issues harder to control, that kind of stuff. So I think that's what I got. Happy to answer any questions.
Our process here and why I wanted Gwen to come talk to us is because we're going to start looking as a commission at how to build a scope of work for our next 10-year master plan, right? And so we know that the nature park is going to be involved in that master planning process as probably one of our larger pieces as far as what do we do with this park, right? That answering that question through outside consultants to say, what is the future of this park? There's a lot of different uses, a lot of different ideas of that park, here, what's been working, what hasn't been working. And so I wanted to, preface that with presentations of users of that space and ideas of that space. So we can at least have a big picture when we formulate our scope of work and what we're going to ask those, consultants to solve. If we don't know that when we're writing the RFP, then we're not going to get a good product on the backside either. So it's really, figuring out ourselves as a commission, what information we need to make educated decisions for a park like that has multiple uses, multiple, ideas that the public sees, for the future down there. And some of those are conflicting with each other, right? So, and so that's going to be very important for us to make sure that's, spelled out with our master plan process of what we're looking for, what we need, what questions we need answered down there. So this is one, this is an idea of a use down there that, we need to think about in the next 10 years. So thank you for, giving us that kind of different vision, right? Of a use of that park. So
yeah. One thing I would say just made me think I would encourage you all to think about instead of using an outside consultant, which we see a lot. The last time an outside consultant, was used, they came up with this really intricate and very expensive plan that wasn't necessarily really appropriate for the town and sort of for the uses that were reflected in the citizen survey that was done. And there are a lot of really experienced and people who've been working and building relationships within the community. And I think there could be a really rich community process that would come up with a really good plan that would likely be less expensive and more appropriate for the area. So just throwing that out there, I think we could accomplish something really good without necessarily going to outside consultants. So just a thought.
Are you talking about that piece of land in particular, or a whole comprehensive parks and recreation and cemetery master plan? Because it's huge.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
Okay.
Yep. I think so.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are local companies that have people, you know, that are
Yep.
local involved that actually did our last master
Yeah.
plan.
Yep.
I don't know who did.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
OTAC and they
who did that
they
one?
were local
Okay,
at the
yeah.
time, but they were kind of new and, you know, they've moved on to Denver and, you know, I think you know, there's enough people that we know in the area that could be tapped for
Yeah.
something like this.
And maybe that could be covered in the details of the scope of work, even if it is an outside consultant, we're the ones that drive that process of saying, here's what we want you to do. We want to make sure that, you know, we get statistically valid survey data from the local users of this, and not just a targeted local user, but, you know, but a wider range of
Yeah.
potential non-users now, but would use if, you know, those type of questions, and maybe we can, and we can actually detail that in the scope. That's kind of some of our work that we're talking about, the commission needs to do for this, for the creation of an RFP for this master plan. So that pre-work is gonna be really important for us to get the product that we want, so.
Yeah, I see this being way more complex than our last one.
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, because, I mean, we're talking about, you know, if we're gonna start drilling down into details on some of these parks, like the nature park, the Thompson House, we talked about that, like master plans of master plans on these things, you know. Yeah, and now we're adding cemeteries into it and things like that. It's
Yeah, and
it's
our
looking pretty
department
big.
since 2015, our department has a lot more property. Our department has a lot more responsibilities. Our department has trails that we didn't have before
Yeah.
that time. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's and we have an expanded cemetery too. Yeah, so you know, that wasn't even looked at last time we did that. So
Right.
yeah, so it's gonna be a large process, a big process, but it is that guiding document. I mean, and we really want to produce, you know, something that, like our last 10-year master plan, was realistic, had attainable goals, you know, things that we could actually accomplish. And when we look at that master plan now from this perspective back, you know, it was really well done because it didn't shoot the moon. You know, the one thing it said you're gonna need to do in 10 years is the big ticket piece was to replace the pool, and that's happening. But the most of it was like maintain what you have. Most of it was like, you know, take care of what you already have. Don't go huge and big, you know, without looking at what you already have. And so
Right.
so I think, you know, we control that as far as what we want this plan to produce. So but I want to make sure we're not missing any aspect of it. That's why you're here today, is just to kind of share with us a vision that you and other people have of that space, you know, because that's the only way we're going to know about that vision. So,
Because I think that, when was the last one done?
2015.
Yeah, I mean, even since then, we're in a whole new world of what we know is happening with how the climate is unfolding.
Absolutely.
I mean, the 2018 IPCC report and then everything that's happened since then, this is a brave new world. And so the next master plan, I think, really needs to take that to heart. You know, how is this town going to function and what are its main needs, you know, that include food production really in a big way. And nobody's, I mean, not nobody, it's just an area that that's not getting enough airplay. Yeah.
I appreciate the perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a park that I go to very often. It's one of my favorites. And to hear a little bit about the history and consider some other options is eye-opening.
Yeah.
And in terms of our commission, I'm interested in being any part of a plan with that nature park. Discussing that and getting information from our community about, you know, what people are dreaming for it. happy to take a lead on it.
Can I just add, I think, I don't know if anybody participated in the kind of art space community outreach that we did for the town center housing development. And I feel like just making a note in our, developing the RFP, what I really loved about that was the full day of community input, where they put together, and that's where I think, whether it's an outside consultant kind of running it, because art space is outside, but they did a far better job than any of the other firms that we had interviewed, as far as being open to what our community would have. But they coordinated a whole, I think it was a 4-hour session with a group of interested people, a lot of different architects and, experts in our community. And they really brainstormed, and then they had lunch, and then they started designing things. And when I think about that, and then I think about this process, it gets kind of exciting of the right consultant could lead through some really engaging community sessions. Because then they finished at 4, and they had draft drawings for the public then for a 4-hour open house, where then we came in as public and put, dots and wrote comment cards and just got to see what was kind of brainstormed and get excited about it. So I think I feel like we've experienced a really good process with that project that we could carry forward in other public processes like this, which will be one of our most important documents going forward. And then I do want to compliment the existing one, because I feel like it's one of our plans as from the Board of Trustees perspective, that when Eric comes and presents, it's literally checklist, we got this done, here's what's highlighted, here's what's in progress, and your team does a really good job of taking that seriously. And I think that's why we're where we are, where we do have great amenities, even if it is good to learn the history of things that could have been done better in the past, and then decide how we're going to do it better in the future. So I just wanted to chime in on that, but thank you, Gwen.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's for
thank you,
being there, yeah.
Gwen.
Oh, and there's that movie at the Crystal too. Did you see that
Common
movie?
Ground?
Yeah. Common
Yeah, if you
Ground.
haven't
So,
seen it,
yeah,
definitely.
I have not
see
seen
that
it, but it
movie.
looks amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's really good.
That's this producer's, it's a wife and husband couple. It's their second movie that they've produced, and has won thousands of awards. And I do want to see it. And it's, am I correct in that it's in the same vein of what you're talking about, a regeneration?
Yeah, it's really about regenerative agriculture and how we, really need to look to our care of the soil and care of ecosystems in a big way, because that's largely, the best that we're going to be able to do to stabilize the climate is to really look at stabilizing our ecosystems, our soil. Yeah, if you haven't seen Kiss the Ground, which was the first one, there was based on a book. And then this is the sort of the next iteration, Common Ground. So both really good and inspiring.
Yeah, that's playing at the Crystal, I think.
Yep.
Next weekend.
Yeah,
I think.
Tuesday, the 17th.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Les Carey, did you want to add something? Oh, okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Gwen. Thanks for
Gwen.
coming out.
Thanks for what you do.
All right. Aquatics Center. Oh, what a surprise. That's on our agenda.
Yeah, so what's in your packet is Wember's November monthly report, and he's including Wember's our owner's rep for the project, so they are including some updated photos of the project. Also, I wanted to mention, if you haven't had a chance to go out to the Carbondale Connect website and look at our kind of live video feed. There's a link there that has a live video feed. You can really kind of track the progress of what's happening out there. And then there's also a time lapse that's kind of neat to watch too, see when it snowed and stuff, when it melted and then snowed again. But it is showing the progress of the pool, and you can kind of see what's amazing to me to watch is how many people are working over there with
Hmm.
Colorado Hardscapes is the contractor that's putting that all together. And they'll have 30 guys out there cranking on rebar. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So there's a lot happening over there. So that's in your packet. The second thing in your packet is kind of the commission's update from the Let's Make a Splash campaign. And so pledges to date, just over 1.4 million. We are,
It's 1,451,835.
there we go.
Actually, we just got another $200 one today that's not in there.
So Cynthia produces that for us. Yeah, it kind of gives you some details on our last donations and kind of where we're sitting with the project. She came to the trustee meeting and on December 3rd and just kind of put a pitch in for the, for for really people just to make sure that they support the project, at any level, anything happens. She gave the trustees their percentage of donation, which I thought was pretty classic. So, and compared those to the Parks and Rec Commission and the capital campaign. So, and she ended that with, if you haven't already, please give a gift or a multi-year pledge and show your support for this priority project for the town. So that was great. We are also Kathleen Wanatovich, who's our campaign chair. She met today actually with a digital marketing professional to kind of plan a little media blitz after the first of the year. We have done a mass mail out with return envelopes to all of the pool users that we had in our database. So that recently just took place. And we also just put out a mass mailing to local businesses that have been involved with the pool at some point or just would benefit from having people get hungry after they swim. So, I think some of these restaurants and local businesses would, we're asking them to help us build the pool and donate to the project too. So anything else I'm missing from the capital campaign?
We had our first 6-digit, right? 6-digit donation, $250,000.
Oh, wow. That came from the, Max Simon Foundation. So that's a foundation under Bryn Simon who, also donated a lot of the land here. Chacos Park was donated by them, and this land over here at Town Center. Yep.
Yeah,
So
it's huge.
So it's, that was great. We are in conversation with somebody who is interested in potentially a 6-figure donation that's interested in some naming rights of the pool too. So, and that's just at the conversation stage right now. So trying to, because, it would have to be a very, very large donation to name the pool after somebody. But there's elements of the pool that we're pitching for that person to maybe take a look at, whether that's the lap pool or whether that's the hot tub and actually equating that donation to one of those pieces of the facility. So so that's where that sits. Anything else to cover there from you guys? I mean, you guys are, yeah, that's coming up. Yeah, we're just kind of going through what we have in the packet here.
Yeah. So right now, you're basically capital campaign. That was the update.
Yep. Let's see, I'm gonna share my screen here. So I wanted to oh boy, where'd it go? I just wanted, so Land and Shelter came to the trustee meeting on the 3rd and did a presentation of the design update, and it's something that you guys hadn't seen. And so I just wanted to share it. It's up on the screen now. And so, you know, we did a value engineering of the project, the masonry as originally designed that went to CPAC to qualify for the 1% for the arts designation, was really the masonry facade of the building. And so CPAC signed off on that as qualifying as architectural embellishment that could qualify as art. And so that was originally presented to CPAC, the Carbondale Public Arts Commission, was signed off on by them. And then we went and value engineered the project, right? So then we changed it. And so we did a pretty good change on that facade of the building. And so we asked Land and Shelter to come and share that change with what the trustees had seen before. And also we cut down some trees that were out there due to the sewer line, you know, necessity to dig up and install a new sewer line out there and water lines. And so we wanted the images of what we're putting out to the public, what we're putting out to trustees, what we're putting out to you guys to be actually real, what's actually going to happen there. So that's what this presentation was. So I just wanted to share some of what their design was. So project overall update, you know, under construction, 100% GMP approved in October. Still anticipating a completion in the fall of 2025. We fell behind a little bit, but I think about 3 weeks in the schedule, but I think they can catch up. Value engineering was approved in October, resulted in cost savings on the masonry scope, windows, and some material finishes. That's what provided our value engineering without, you know, any big design changes. Still 3 bodies of water, still with all the amenities that we were interested in. High priority design alternatives, and we'll get to what happened last night. But these were the alternatives that were kind of high priority that came out of a much longer list of adults. But these were the ones that were also super important to look at, make decisions on, so it doesn't affect the actual construction process and put us further behind. So these were the decisions that kind of needed to be made before January 1 for us not to put the schedule at risk. So project is all electric, extended season, roughly 5 months of the year for the lap pool and the spa. So you can see in this lower shot, the kind of building with kind of the newly designed brick structure with the glass block. And with the trellis above it. So trellis is attached, which was an adult. So this was displayed to the trustees. This kind of just shows you the new landscaping plan. So we did lose that large pine tree in the front. And so they have replaced that with an additional tree and 2 more trees to the east there in the front of the building. This was kind of the glass and brick facade, you know, ran that whole length of the building. And so that's what was, you know, costing us so much, is just, and it ran from the bottom of the building all the way to the top of the building. And so they shrank that a little bit to bring that into this entry corner of the building. So that was part of the value engineering process. Yeah, it kind of explains that there. So here's kind of some before and after that I think are valuable to look at. So previous masonry design, you can see how it goes from the bottom to the top. It was spread out over the 3 openings in the building, one being the bathrooms and then one being the mechanical room. And it ran the whole length of the building with that large pine tree there. So were able to kind of show current masonry design and street tree specification, what they are specifying as what the street tree would look like there. Here is a new street tree scale at time of planting. They actually did another vision of that at maturity of those trees that they plan on planting there. So it gave us kind of a good vision of what that would look like in the future.
Eric, before you move on, can you scroll down again? At the top where it says Carbondale Aquatics, and go further.
Further.
Yeah, the one on the left, the before one looks like it's dark, Carbondale Aquatic Center. The other one looks almost like white, like you.
Oh,
Are you even gonna be able to read that? I mean, or is this, not final or whatever? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's not final. I don't think so. Yeah, I see what you're saying. We can ask them still.
Yeah,
That's something we haven't
let's
asked.
just get that clarified
Okay.
about what's. Yeah, because I mean, well, from in this rendition, I can't even read the thing on the right.
Right.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, we can
And
ask
how
them.
important is that? Which I kind of think is probably pretty important, but.
Yeah, we can ask them about that.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. So they did plant deciduous trees there, so you wouldn't have as much of a icing issue in the winter on that north side. This was kind of their pattern studies that they had derived, originally just for the idea palette. So here's a daytime facade. These are exposed structural CMU in the most of the buildings. So a lot like what you see at the rec center on the outside of the gym is the way I equate that. So on the north side. So that's what the east side of this building would look like.
So from this viewpoint, does the parapet of the building, does it block the view of the heat pumps and all that?
Yeah, they did a study. I mean, they did a study of how high it needed to be to block it from the other side of the street. Yeah, from the north side of the street looking towards Sopris. They had a visual study in their design set that kind of looked at that to see how high they needed to go. It will not, I don't think, fully block the large air source heat pump cell.
The glass blocks is still over, it's covering the areas that are all the dressing rooms, the bathrooms.
Yeah, so you'll have the two changing rooms, or you can kind of see it, it's a little bit darker there. And also the office of the entryway on the west side there. Yeah, so these new street trees, little leaf lindens, they're called, will be
Nice.
planted in between the building and the street. As illustrated here, they will grow to 25-30 feet height once mature. They are deciduous varieties to allow sunlight through during the winter, which will reduce ice buildup on the sidewalks and streets. So it's a thought process going
Very
behind that.
fragrant. Very fragrant. I mean, one thing to consider though too on that, Eric, lots of bees.
Bees.
When they're, in bloom.
Big old blooms.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of my favorite trees, but I don't know if that's gonna be an issue. I don't know. Or if you want all three of them to be that, if there's an entryway and I'm just thinking of bee allergies, that's all I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
sure.
I don't know if that's
The one on the corner is an oak that's closest to the entry, and then the two street trees are lindens. And so
Oh, okay,
could
so
be
maybe
okay.
it's a
Yeah.
non-issue. People at the
Yeah,
bus
we
stop
can
are.
do Parking, the bike parkers,
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, honeybees aren't really very.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, really, you're right. I mean, I don't know, just people, bees. I don't know. Some people freak out, other people don't.
This is kind of an effort they did for a kind of a nighttime vision of what it would look like, because they have a light strip design that's located in between the CME wall and the brick and glass. And so it will illuminate from the inside of that wall, you know. Now, whether it's gonna look exactly like this, we don't know, but this is, you know, their stab at what they're trying to accomplish with that effort, so.
And why do we need this?
I was gonna say, that was one of my larger issues with.
Because it looks
this.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a dark skies person. It's like,
It's-
do we really need to have a lit up corner?
I'd say this is one of the favorite components of the Board of Trustees. I
And
can
it's
say
also
that.
a bus stop
A
too,
bus
so, yeah.
stop, it's,
Projecting up, it's
Yeah.
in the wall.
Yeah.
It's creating a glow. And so I think it's cool. I think it's a very cool feature of it.
I I was gonna say, I
No.
wonder, is there any way to get a scope on like lumens off of this? I mean, where is it? It's somewhere.
So I'm gonna say something. So I've been at the CPAC meetings and the lights will go off at like 11, whatever the downtown
Normal lights.
ordinance is, so those lights will get dimmed or turned off. And it's also a bus stop, so there's a safety component to having some light in that area.
I imagine we'll have streetlights though, and normal stuff on that area. The one caption that kind of caught my attention was this, quoting, creating a beacon at the entrance of downtown Carbondale in the daytime and nighttime. I'm all for having it lit. I'm all for like showing off the artistry. Creating a beacon, I don't think is the goal of the pool. And very much so from living on Euclid Avenue, it is pitch black over there. And so from a safety concern, a little bit of light is great. But if we can maybe look at how much light this creates, particularly if there's no trellis over it. You know, if there's a trellis over it, I think that will definitely reflect light down, which is excellent. But if there's nothing over it, you shine a light at a glass block, it is gonna go in all directions. And so that was the one part that I was very hesitant about on this look.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mm.
Yeah, and we can ask them, you know, like, lumen study, you know, potentially, you know, might be able to be done, you know, in a not, you know, prior to construction, you know, is what I'm saying, just in a science-based, you know, process. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would it be lit all year long, or would it only be lit during operating season?
I would think that it would still need to operate as, you know, safety for the bus stop. So I would think it'd be year round. That's a good question. But
Is the bus stop, has that been decided if that's not a decided factor of attached to the building or not, correct?
right, that's, yeah, still to be determined, but we'll get to that trellis is gonna be on the building, so, yeah, so. And then we'll get there, but
It sounds like maybe the electrical components need to have some dimming adjustability to account for what it's like on paper and what it's like in reality.
Yeah.
So it can adjust accordingly.
There are also a lighting ordinance in the zoning code, so one that gets reviewed by the planning
Mm.
director. So.
where it can't be above a certain brightness, Kay?
Yeah, because we have existing codes that are dark sky.
Yeah, good.
Compliant or whatever that is, yeah.
you know, this one kind of gives you the vision of the facility with the trellis and without the trellis too. And so we did want to show that and just how that affects the just architectural, you know, feeling of the building. So and just a daytime, nighttime comparison. So here's Drew, where that corner tree would be I don't know how to say it, Shinnepen oak. Okay, these are just some material samples, so. You know, we did do kind of a materials study of the frosted glass and the two layers and the space in between and the distance in between those two layers and whether or not it was visually going to do what we wanted it to do, which was to blur out any and everything. And so, and that's, they actually physically did these studies with these glass blocks, these frosted glass blocks, and were able to, and they were actually doing the study because when they do the masonry here, the masons were very worried about their mud from the masonry, just laying the glass blocks and bricks, that if the mud from that process got on the inside of this glass, how would that look? You know, from both sides, would that look pretty bad? You know, and so they've been working with the masons about how to not have that happen. And we also did some studies where you're not going to be able to see it if it's on the inside, unless, and we did not do these studies before, unless the glass block is wet. And so we did some other studies with the design team about what if the glass block on the outside is wet, it's raining, right? And how does that affect the visual impact of this design? And so you would actually probably see mud mason stuck on the inside of the glass at that point if that glass was wet. Then we also did a look at if both sides of it's a four-sided deal, right? So both sides of the glass block on the outside were wet, which the inside is the changing room and bathroom, right? So in a pool, so it could potentially get wet, right? So we're saying, okay, what are we looking at if we have both sides wet? And it was fine until we got the inside too wet. Then it wasn't fine at all.
You mean you could see straight through it?
Not straight through it, not that you could tell what was in there, but you could see color, you could see motion, you could see silhouettes, I guess we could call it. And so we got very nervous about that design potential, right? And the study was to see if all the masonry mud was going to show up, you know, and so we did kind of say yes. And so we really feel like some of us, I should say, really feel like the two inside panes, which are frosted, are never going to get wet. It's designed to never get wet. It's inside the wall, designed to never get wet unless we have a leaky roof or something, right? So we green lighted it, but it was a very long discussion because it didn't make some people feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, about the other question too, though, is how close does somebody have to be to that glass block to even see the silhouette? You
Well,
know,
that's my point though, is that it's literally a bench on the other side. And so we basically came up with a contingency that if I ever get a complaint or a parent complaint, that they will go back and design a different type of screen in the locker rooms that will still allow the light through, but will not allow that. Because that's my opinion, is that if you are bringing kids in there, or if you're changing in a locker room and so we're going to design it as is with the note that there is a potential that the architects have to come back and put in a screen if it is an issue in those sections.
And it'd be a translucent screen, so that daylighting aspect that is so cool about this design, you know, won't be lost there. So
okay.
that's where we ended up. And this was just their kind of wall detail showing you the gap in between the two, and how it will be sealed and not how it will be sealed and should not get wet and as designed. So on the inside. So this was presented to the trustees, and one of the just what I want everybody to know here, with the value engineering, one of the questions that was asked of the architectural team was, do you guys feel like you compromised your design with that value engineering of the project? And I was really glad that they were there to answer that, because they're able to kind of quell those fears that because we value engineered it, the architects, feel like their product is less than it was. That wasn't the case at all. They made a very good case that they actually like it more now. They like how it breaks up the corner in the building itself, and they actually, with all these architectural terms, they described how they feel it's actually better. And so because there was definitely some people that were wondering if that was a compromise on their artistic integrity. So, and it's not. So I just want to share that with this group too. Okay, any questions on? And CPAC did vote on this as being qualifying for the 1% for the arts too. So after that was presented to them, they did give it unanimous qualifying for that art piece. So okay, any questions on any of that? So next.
No, funding. You want to talk about the trustee meeting last night?
Yes, so we're gonna let you know, we went to the trustees on December 3rd and kind of presented this and talked about the health of the rec sales and use tax fund and our kind of surplus in that fund and what that means for the project and how to really utilize that for the project. And we talked about the adults, not being funded presently in the project, and how by January 1, we need to let the contractor know to not put the schedule at risk, whether or not we are interested in building those adults and what priority of those adults are we interested in building. And so at that time, we were directed by the trustees to go back and kind of do a little bit deeper dive into the rec sales and use tax fund and our fund balance policy. So, and the fund balance policy states that we need to keep in the reserves 80% of the annual expenditures out of that fund. So that's about $1.8 million we figured out. So the trustees asked us to then come back at the 10th, their special meeting on the 10th. Is that just last night? Yeah, that was just last night. Okay, it's been a heck of a week already. And they asked us to come back to that meeting with scenarios of kind of, how we wanted to fund the project as designed. So including the adults that we had prioritized. And so when we set out 4 scenarios for that, there was a request, by some of the trustees to look at if our rec sales and use tax fund is very healthy, because we had a kind of a boon in sales tax in this town that wasn't realized, when we borrowed from the general fund 1.6 million. We didn't have any grants at that time. We made that decision. We didn't, hadn't done a real big study. We didn't have the boon in sales tax that we saw after that fact. And so that's why that 1.6 was borrowed out of the general fund to backfill the rec sales and use tax fund for this project, the one-time expenditure, for this project. So that, some of the trustees wanted, were like, well, how come the rec sales and use tax isn't paying for us? And the point made there was there's an unknown in the expenditures of that rec sales and use tax. That is the operational cost of the new rec center. We don't know that yet. We had a feasibility study done, through master plan process 2021 that gave us a number even on an extended season. So we were able to, at least have a number that had been vetted through Ballard and King as somebody who does this all the time, as a consultant. And so, we utilized that number, put it in real dollars today, had a pretty hard look at what is the pool gonna cost us to operate in 2026. And so we had really kind of broke that down and looked at that. How is that going to affect our rec sales and use tax, revenue and expenditures? So, and with that, and thanks last night for correcting our math, because Erica's like, hold on, you forgot about these revenue sources. So she helped us out last night, get to a better spot. But we still showed a deficit in that fund due to operations, paying back of the bond, and also operations of the rec center. So those three expenditures out of that fund created a deficit in a projected revenue of that rec sales and use tax fund. So that hopefully helped the trustees, have and make an educated decision on how to fund the adult and how to shore up that project. So we can let our contractor know we want to build these, because we needed to let them know now if we want to build them or not. And so we had a couple different scenarios and a very robust discussion last night.
Plus hours. I listened to it today. It was educational.
Really of kind of how to fund this, how to abide by our 80%, fund balance policy, how to, trust the process, I guess is the way to maybe say it the best. And try to, use the rec sales and use tax fund for what it's for, which is, for something like this project, and to try not to dip into the general fund reserves, because that needs to fund a bunch of other projects that the rec sales and use tax can't. And so that's the kind of philosophical basis for the decisions, I think, that were made last night. And so what was the decision that was made last night was what we called our scenario 4. And so that is utilizing 700,000 of the rec sales and use tax fund balance. That was decided a little bit ago when we didn't get the grant from GoCo. So that was kind of backfilling that grant space as a contingency on the contingency. I was calling that. And then to transfer 800 out of that 1.6 million that we had borrowed from the general fund reserves back into the general fund, retain 800,000 and fund all the adults. So that was kind of what transpired last night. Can't believe it was just last night. Yeah, last night in the meeting. And so what's great about this is we're not below our fund balance with this technique. We can let the contractors know to move forward with the adults, which the first conversation we had last night was, is everybody okay with us figuring out how to fund these adults? And everybody, that was the unanimous decision right there. Yep, let's figure out how to fund these adults. We're going to build this once, we're going to build it right. And so that was really the first thing that we checked off the box last night. And so now we're just, we're trying to figure out how to do it in a responsible manner too. I mean, I think that's where we kind of got stuck last night, is how do we do this in a responsible manner, taking into account the general fund needs, taking into account our rec sales and use tax future needs and some unknowns there. So some risk there, and just making sure everybody felt pretty comfortable with the final decision. And then I hope that's what happened last night, but if you want to come in, I'd love it. Yes, please.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think you summarized it well. It's not so much a hey, rec sales and use tax, take care of your own. It's more just like, we're getting lots of demands to build housing, to build a roundabout that costs a lot of money. And so just making sure that we have those funds that we can use for the pool being fully utilized. And so I think the decision we made was a great, it was one of your guys' recommendations and was a great way to kind of get to that point and then meet both goals. And it did lead from, because we didn't have these numbers in front of us last week. And so, and it was just kind of shared that like, hey, we have a big fund balance in in the rec sales use tax. And then that spurred us to say, oh, okay, wait, maybe we should just look at that a little closer before we approve our 2025 budget, which is really where all this comes in, is making sure we add the adults now, so it's in the budget. And then clarifying this transfer that we made from the general fund, and then what portion of that to move back or move back at all. So.
And Erica, as I understand it too, from listening to it, a lot of it's, not gonna hit until 2026, like the operating expenses for the pool and stuff, so not knowing. But did I also understand too that the trustees were saying, hey, if there's a shortfall, if there's some issues, we'll back you up with the general fund on that?
Yes,
Did I-
definitely. I feel like we didn't make a motion, which maybe I might raise that we should make a motion just so we clarify that. Because we had a few things where a few of us were like, I thought we talked about this. No. So we
Uh-huh.
make a motion and it gets clear, it's in the minutes. But yeah, there's a commitment from the entire board that if in 2026, and anything comes up in operations where it just completely exceeds and we get into going below the 80% fund balance, that we're willing to put money in from the general fund.
Okay.
But I do think it would be good for us to, in the next year, just acknowledging that we have elections in 2026. So it could be, there will be transition on the board. And so just making sure that's not reliant on persuading new board members to do that. I'd love to figure out a way. We can't commit future dollars, but if we make a motion and just really clarify for future boards that that's our intent. But we also didn't, there still is excess in the fund balance. Like we didn't get, one of the proposals was to go ahead and go below the 80% and we didn't move that forward. So
Yeah.
there's still a healthy fund balance.
Yeah, Susan.
2 hours and I will go look at that, I guess. But, back
Or
in the
not.
day, there was general fund money when the budget was 11.5 million. That was the 1.6 million, I thought.
Mhm.
So did I understand you're taking out 800,000, but we're still okay?
Mhm. Yeah, we're taking back
Are we up to
part of it.
2.1 million then of the 2.5 that we need, or? I'm not quite sure of the bottom line.
Right. A year ago, we committed to, before any fundraising or anything happened, and it was gonna be and it is in supplement to the fundraising, to commit 1.6 million out of the general fund. So that was transferred into the rec fund. What spurred this was across all of our revenues, we saw a 22% increase in our sales tax revenue. That mostly has to do, which is an amazing amount. Like we do not have that kind of increase every year. We changed to the state collecting sales tax. So we're just getting sales tax from more sources, and it's easier for small retailers and stuff to get us sales tax. We won't see that same increase this coming year. But what that did is it boosted both of our funds, but it boosted the rec centers enough that, as from the board of trustees and getting all these demands on all of our money, was like, okay, well, now it looks like the rec tax can fund more of this project than we thought it was going to be able to back in 2023 when we made this decision. So we essentially changed our minds.
And we had, some grant funding there. We had a capital campaign going on. So there, that also helped, I think, in that process of how we're going to afford this
Yeah.
new facility. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But from what you said, the contingency on the contingency, that 700,000 from the rec center sales use tax can be added to this project. That's as makes it as if we had gotten that grant, so doesn't
No,
that put us
it's-
up?
They basically, the 1.6 million that they said from the general fund, they're splitting that. So they're taking instead of, so that 1.6 part of it, 700,000 is coming from the general fund from that account, and then the other half is coming from the rec.
So what Hollis said about if we don't raise the rest of the money through the capital campaign, the general fund will
No,
backfill?
no. If in 2026, we're starting to have a shortfall on the operating thing, then the trustees are gonna help us meet those expenses.
We're going forward with the full budget and with the
With all the-
expectation that we're still gonna raise another.
Yes, and fundraising
1.1
is,
million.
from fundraising is not stopping, grant writing is not stopping. You know, it was a snapshot when they were working with the budget last night, you know, about like, well, this is where we are right now, snapshot in time, but everything, if we don't raise another penny. But all those efforts are continuing.
So the
Yeah.
funding's there if no more dollars are raised.
Yeah.
And so that's the commitment we have to get. We had to give the contractors to say, yes, we want the trellis because it
We
looks so
want all the-
cool. We
all
want
the
solar,
adults.
We want the diving board. We want it all. So we made that commitment that money
Yeah.
is now in the budget to make those things happen. Now, as fundraising continues, and if we don't spend all that, then look at the pool of funding that we have available for Chacos Park. So kind of that becomes the pitch, I think.
Yeah, and you know, there's still a lot of risk in this project too. I mean, let's say that contingency gets spent on one change order, which is very possible.
Yeah.
You know, with a pool project. And so, so we still need to raise funds, you know, we still need to be gung ho on, you know, on fundraising because of those risks and unknowns to the project, you know. We had a conversation with Kathleen today. I'm like, well, when do we kind of have an end target, you know, to our capital campaign, you know, just so we can say, here's, for that little pressure piece, you know, we need it by this date, you know, just to have that in the process. And I said, well, you know, that really can't happen until the risk of the project is almost zero, right? With the way we're funding this, so that is down the road a little bit when we feel like there's almost zero risk, and we're gonna be able to afford the facility as designed, so.
Rose?
Everybody's very somber and I just want to kind of celebrate a little bit because this is really
Yay,
good
Rose.
news, you guys.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're transferring
Yeah.
some funds around, but honestly, we just kind of like
We're getting
pushed the green
everything,
freaking light. And I think that we
everything.
should honestly like, good work, everybody that has put this all in.
Yeah.
This is huge. We've been in these talks for a long time and we're like,
Yeah.
let's go. Do we have the money? I don't know. Let's go. And now we should still get more money and we're still gonna try to do it. But the bottom line is that we have the money and that we're gonna do it. And this is definitely a reason to celebrate.
And we're not just doing it, we're doing the whole
We're doing the
shebang.
shebang. So congratulations to us and you and you and Brian and everybody. Like, thank you.
And some
Thank
of
you to
us
Kathleen and
here have been
Rose.
talking about this in these meetings for 10 plus years. too,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
yep,
This
so
is
I agree.
amazing.
I agree.
Yeah. oh, good.
I do want to say, I mean, it was unanimous to add all the adults, despite all the discussions that have been had and, you know, and so I just, I think the value engineering helped a lot and the board is really excited about the project. We still have a lot of questions and most of our debate last night really had to do with math, so.
I'm excited and
Tune
I also
in.
like math.
You
Tune
don't
in.
need to listen to all.
Yes.
I was like, what? Of course, I didn't have any papers in front of me and they're like, page 42. And I'm like, 42?
Yeah, I forgot about it. And then I heard Mayor Ben talking on the radio this morning and I'm like, what? I want more details. And I don't want to go watch that.
I think you need to. Eric just gave you the bottom
I
line.
hope like
And
gave you the
Erica.
synopsis there, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, okay. Are we done with the aquatics thing? We're a little behind. Okay. Eric, you want to bring us up to speed on the special events?
Yeah, let me pull that up here. Yeah, so I just wanted to include our meeting minutes in here, just so you can kind of see what took place at the first special event task force meeting, November 20th, which is really kind of a review of processes, you know, with special event organizers and neighbors and rules and regs. And then we really look at, you know, the whole calendar of events from last year's events. And so it's kind of the opportunity for people to say, you know, this, you know, didn't like this event, or this park has too many events, or, you know, so it is a process that we open to the public. And it has been, you know, used for that. We only had a couple neighbors show up, you know, to the meeting. A lot of special event producers, you know, came to the meeting. And so it was a little bit of preaching to the choir, but it was good to get some feedback from them. So on, you know, kind of the last year's events and some changes that will happen next year. One of the biggest changes really is in the portion of the minutes where we were talking about Main Street closures. So one of the big changes is we're only gonna fund and actualize short closures for our First Fridays. Our public works staff who, you know, on the couple of our events we had, especially the summertime events, we have, you know, done a long closure, which means a closure from Snowmass Drive all the way to Went on Main Street. And it has, it's just a lot of work. And it's also, the public isn't, because that end of the block is not activated. We used to close that down for that distance because we were trying to activate those other additional 2 blocks. That is not kind of happening now. And so we're getting pushback on, and in dangerous situations for our public works employees, of people not abiding by the street closure and pushing them out of the way physically and driving their cars on that road.
Wow.
And
Well,
so
it's pretty hard when you're coming in from Catherine's store and then you get all the way in there and you'd have to do a U-turn and go all the way back out again.
no, you just take a left on the Snowmass.
Oh, you still can do that?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Cypress all the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Across
Oh,
Yeah,
but they
left to
were
Cypress.
going straight down Main Street?
Because they're heading, you know, that way. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
so, you know, it's just, so there are some incidences where without having a police car parked there the whole time, people just were moving
Yeah.
barricades and, you know, and having somebody there the entire time. So the public works employees are not willing to do that. We're gonna just have a short street closure. Now, if Marble Distillery, the Clay Center, there's gonna be a new food truck down there. If they want to, you know, have that street closed out in front and activate it, that's fine. We'll go through our process and do that, you know, and get all that papered up. So, but as far as closing down that middle section when nothing's happening there, trying to kick all the cars off there and trying to keep people from driving down there, it wasn't making sense anymore. So,
Yeah.
so that was one of the big changes. And so we had some ideas on that from other event producers. And then we just kind of went through, you know, obviously that's different when you have a parade associated with the First Friday. So you do, our traditional route is from 2nd Street, you know, down to Went. So there would still be a long closure for the parades. So.
So what will First Friday be?
So it goes from Went, you know, right at 6th Street there on Main, and to Third Street. Yeah, right there at the Smithy. So we did go over, you know, Silver's Park events. We go over Tacos Park events. Yeah, so just some information for you. The next meeting, let's see, what else do we have? Oh, there was one request for a new street closure that, you know, we'll go into, be part of our next meeting, and then of course go to the trustees for approval through this process too. But 5 Point Film Festival is wanting to for the duration of their event in April, activate this Colorado Avenue out here in front of the rec center, versus activating what we've tried in the past, the back parking lot. And so they'd like to see if that has a different feel if we activate in front of the rec center for the weekend. They've had some events out there, you know, over their 17-year history. What was it called? The Van Life Rally, but that was really only for one day of the event. So they really want to test out an activation of that whole space with vendors and include that in the liquor license space. They'll have to manage that and control the access and egress there. But that's the idea for that. So just wanted to, you know, put that out to this group too, and just get some feedback on that, see what people think.
So would it be closed off from like Thursday noon to Sunday at 5?
Yep.
Or?
Yep. And one of the, you know, we looked at that, doing that before. One of the concerns was that it is kind of a truck traffic lane for deliveries. And so we'd never want to do that if we were shutting down Main Street also. So they might just have to shift to Main Street for that time frame, because that's, or, you know, could go around, you know, a different route. But that was one of the concerns in the past that we've had with activating that for the entire
Where would it
weekend.
get shut though? From 4th to, would you shut it all the way at 4th?
So it'd be at 6, really just half the block. So, because we need to allow these residences right here across the street, you know, to have access. So it'd really be from the promenade path right here to 6th Street. So that section. So yeah, if there's no feedback on that, that's fine. Just wanted to bring it up as one of the bigger changes for this process. So
I did have a question from that event, from your events meeting.
Was there, how did we do with the rodeo?
Yeah, so we had just one rodeo neighbor show up. They and that told me right there that we were fairly successful with our you know, parking rules and you know, kind of neighbor complaints about those events out there. So yeah, the fact that just one neighbor showed up was it was a success in my book. And you know, I do give kudos, and they were there at this meeting, you know, to the organizers of the Carbondale Wild West Rodeo and the hoops that they jumped through and the money that they spent to make sure we can continue to have that event out there. They really bent over backwards and spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of thought process and energy and effort to make sure it's feasible to do what they're doing out there. And they proved to me that it's still feasible for the size of event that they have there. So yes, so we just kind of went through you know, the rest of the events and locations. Our next meeting is really putting together 2025 calendar, having a good look at it with the special event task force, packaging it so it can be presented to the trustees for approval of all the street closures, all the parades, all the special events, all the, you know, just kind of that full calendar of approval. So that'll happen January 15th, and that's an evening meeting, 5:30 to 7 p.m. And so and anybody, it's open to everybody. So if anybody's interested,
Where is it going to be?
it's right here. Yeah, in this room.
Big room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there discussion about having the summer music series in Chaco Park instead of Cypress?
Yeah, so what's going on with the summer music series? At the trustee level, you know, Steve Staniford and Ralph Pitt, you know, kind of, and Marty Silverstein, who kind of, you know, put all that on. Steve wrote a community service grant, to fund that, the community music in the park series. And the trustees felt like last year that there wasn't enough marketing really. And so they actually have earmarked money for, public, concerts in the park, but didn't award it to Steve. And so, so they're either thinking about an RFP process for that, or just, having some meetings with Steve and some other event organizers and figuring out a way to make sure they're marketed properly. The complaint was nobody kind of knew what was going on till it was too late. And that the marketing, wasn't sufficient enough for the investment, I guess, is what, did I get that right from what? Yeah.
I think I read how you guys presented it in these notes too, and I think that's fair. It's more like, because the community grants, we just kind of give you the money and that's it, but this was a chance to say, okay, let's pull it. Well, still, the money's still there, but we just want to have more discussions because it was funny how many people would mention it to me of like, hey, I didn't even know, do those still happen? Is it still going on? Like, it just seemed to lose a little bit this year. And so it's worth just revisiting. And if it stays with Steve and Marty and Ralph doing it, but they just understand that like, we want to, like, the community cares about this. If you guys, and it's also an out for them. If they don't want to do it, then let's find somebody who does, because people enjoy it. So let's make sure it's money well used.
Well, I went to a couple of them and I often thought it's attended by a small enough numbers of people that it seemed like it would be a better event in Chacos Park. It would feel more close, right? Like you're at more of a party. The way it kind of ends up now, it's everybody's trying to find a shady spot under a tree. So it's like, 3 people here and 4 people over there. It's like, we're, 40 people under the trees over on the west side. So it's almost like the space doesn't work, was my feedback on it, was my impression of it. And Chacos will be great eventually.
Yeah, there's not much shade in Chacos right now, though. That's
Not right now.
yeah, that's
At
kind
all.
of an issue there. Yeah,
What about that time of day? Is it
it's 3 to 7.
3 to 7. No, it wouldn't. It would be.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
like,
hot.
youch.
Yeah.
Plus we erected some temporary. Anyway, I'll just stand there. Yeah.
Big umbrella.
So helpful.
You can hire you.
We plan on having a good conversation with Steve and his group and just kind of figuring this out. And, the question is, you put it on RP and if nobody's interested in doing it, then you're back to square one. So, but so we're gonna put some feelers out maybe before that process, takes a bunch of time. So, yeah.
Drew, I nominate you.
For what?
He's doing all the things now.
To do summer.
All the things, that's how life goes.
Okay, is that
Reports.
it on special events? Yep. Are you all good? Okay. 3069, I just have a couple updates real quick. So Fishing is Fun Grant Crystal River project. We're in the process of closing that out right now. So that'll be good. That actually needs to be closed out before it is, end of the year. So we are working on that frantically, but it's coming together. So I think we've got what they need and we should get that in next week. The Crystal River restoration, the sign work, for the interpretive signage. So DHM put out a RFP, got a couple different proposals. We are looking at going with a company called Monaco Signs. So they're going to go under contract here next month with us, and so they'll be producing the signs as designed by DHM. As far as fabrication and manufacture of those signs, and install. So and that'll happen, if everything goes well, that'll happen literally start the day that we open up that park, due to the bald eagle closure on March 15th. So, and weather pending too, of course. We have a little window of time before the Migratory Bird Act kicks in. So we have a little tiny window of time to make that happen.
And then the fish closure.
And then as far as update on Chaco's Park Master Plan, so Land and Water Conservation Fund is a grant that's in process. They do their interviews tomorrow with all the 13 proposals that are going after this money. So so I'm unfortunately unable to be there. So Lauren and Nick with RE Land are going to be presenting to the selection committee tomorrow. And so they've got it's a 10-minute presentation, 5 minutes of questions, and they see 13 of those. And so that's happening tomorrow. But I did sit in on you could sit in on their original meeting when they discussed what they wanted to see from the potential, grantors who put in the grants. They discussed, thumbs up, thumbs down on the 13 grants that are in there. And we scored really highly in that process, that initial kind of look at the grant itself. So I was pretty pleased after watching that whole meeting that ours seemed like it was going to be in the running for that money just through that first process. There's many other processes, but so the secondary process is this interview process with that selection committee, which happens tomorrow. So wish them luck.
Do we know where we are on the lineup?
No, I don't. It's at 2:30. So I don't know when they started, when they finished, but yeah. Yeah, so they put together a nice, you get 10 slides and of a PowerPoint or PDF, and to make your pitch, and so it's an elevator pitch, for sure.
Okay.
And then they have 5 minutes of
Nick better
question
have
answer.
practiced this good.
No, he's been working on this project for a year now, so he's I think
You can get
They-
a lot of words in a short period of time.
they worked
but,
on it. He and Lauren worked on it today. I think they're gonna kill it. So
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
so those are things I just wanted to highlight on the 3069. So
Anything else, Eric, before we turn it
Nope.
over to Margaret?
not for me. I'm good.
I didn't forget you this time, Margaret.
We talk a lot of other times.
We
She
do.
thinks that I've already presented. So we had the turkey trot. We had 839 registered.
Woohoo.
We ended up having 734 racers on the day. So we had 110 more registered than last year. And then we ended up having about 30 more racers total than last year.
What was the temperature this year versus last year?
It was cold.
Some
Chris
people
was-
decide to sleep in. Yeah.
Chris was setting up the course and I think it was 9 degrees.
It was cold.
So we had 27 volunteers and rec staff and 3 police officers to help make it happen. And we figure we probably had about 25 to 50 spectators around. So we broke even for the most part. We're around we were at 104, but I have one advertisement that needs to come in. And then everything worked well. We have one issue that we need to work on for next year, which is just signage for everybody to understand that all the roads to downtown will be closed starting at 9 o'clock. So if after 9 o'clock you're trying to park, you need to come down 8th and Merrill and you cannot get in. Because I had the conversation with the police about, well, you can at least keep Snowmass open until we start the race. And they said the issue is they don't want anybody in the downtown corridor because that's a lot of people trying to get in and all of them are on foot. And so they were just having them park on County Road 100 and walk to the race from there. So that's just our communication that we need to have better with everybody who's coming to the race and then everybody in the downtown corridor, because essentially we run a lap around downtown. And so, but that was, and everybody, and thank you to our volunteers, because several of them got yelled at a few times.
Yeah, but I'm tough.
You're tough. I had one volunteer said that they would do it again next year, but they would not take snowmass in me. Which is ironic because they were with the police. So yeah, so we're gonna actually get additional signage that goes under each banner on each street, and then we will continue to send it out basically daily to all the participants.
And it's just a 9 to 11, really, so 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. 2 hours, one day a year. You can on a holiday, you can leave for skiing before 9. There was one person that actually had to get to work. So anyway, so yeah. Yes. And then let's see, any other comments, questions about the turkey trot?
Did you see me waving to you?
I'm here.
Oh, you're here, you're not at the end, you're not doing it?
I don't get to run it.
I know.
I organize.
She,
it.
She's a little busy.
And I heard her the day before, people were calling in wanting to cancel and get a refund. And she's like, because I saw the weather. She's like, nope.
No, come in and get your sweatpants. And don't complain.
Sweatpants.
You pay for
Keep you warm.
Go get them. And then we had another successful light up. Seemed to go
Yeah.
really well this year. So we had a whopping, 7 days in between, 8 days and 9 days in between. So yeah, full staff, and that one seems to, we've really gotten the metal barricades were the best thing that we ever bought. And so that's really helped actually cut down, we should be able to cut down on staff, just for how well that goes with all the metal barricades out. And then next up we have our.
Wait, look, so we can talk about 2 things that we did today. Oops, right here. It is 5:22 p.m. from the spot. And then here.
Oh, the tree, oh, nice, oh, the tree's lit up, nice. Nice, I love it. Good call.
Awesome. Just back to, and then, so our next big event will be the first Friday for family skate night. So the ice rinks, we're gonna put them.
The 5 of us out there.
Is that in January?
Yeah, January 1st Friday. So we're gonna put up the ice rinks, either the small downtown one, they're looking at putting it up on Friday, and then on the 16th, we're looking at putting the frames out and filling the ice rinks. And then we have 3 consecutive days of frozen weather before they're usually ready for the public. So we're starting to take lots of phone calls about them.
Is this later than usual? That we set that up?
Well, we had hoped to get the downtown one up today, actually. It's not later than usual, though. We just had very cold weather.
Yeah.
And so, we could have started earlier, but that's not normal. Usually we're right here in this week and next week building ice rinks and filling them up, because we're looking for nighttime temps in the low teens or single digits to have that slab freeze that we put in there. So.
We have a senior trip on the 13th. It's Music on the Mount. Cycling started this month. Adult volleyball will finish this month, and then the registration is open for the winter spring. So that is up and open. Girls basketball will finish next week, and then we have 2 weeks, and then boys basketball will start and go through March. And then, so other than that, it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
3rd, like next year. 3rd right now.
3rd right now.
They got one more year.
You're still a dinky dunker.
Same.
And then we are gonna bring back climbing in January as well. So we have a business that we're gonna have a pool thing at Business After Hours. Next week, they were gracious enough to just let us come and set up a booth there. And that is all I have. Oh, and then in January, sorry, not all I have. 2 more things before we meet again. We will start running our all of our youth hockey programs. Open hockey will be, drop-in hockey will be same hours as last year. And then we will have the buy 3 month, get 1 month free membership sale in our one and only sale in January. And then we will also start the photo competition for the puzzle for Puzzle and Pie Night. So somebody needs to outdo Tommy, because Tommy's actually gotten it the last 2 years. So, so if you have a photo, it should be with a camera, like a nice camera.
So you can't use your iPhone.
300 DPI. iPhone photos just don't. The puzzle maker manufacturer says that they just don't transfer well. So a high quality phone. And maybe we'll let you guys vote on it this year. Because we had staff vote last year.
Oh. Okay.
That would be good.
Yeah,
What's the date of that?
The date of the event itself will be February 23rd, and we're going to open registration on the 3rd of January.
Okay.
And this year, the other thing that we're going to do different is basically we're not going to cap it. We have to order the puzzles in, so we'll have to pick it at some point, but we don't need to cap it by tables because we had a lot of people who were actually able to bring their own tables.
Okay.
So these submissions for from the community for photos, like anyone can submit, including high school
Yeah.
photography class?
Oh, there you
Good idea,
go.
I don't teach it, but
Oh,
That's okay.
I can talk to the
Leslie?
photography teacher. Yeah. I think it's Kim Carpenter.
yes. And this year, we're also going to offer up kind of like they do for the, so if you have art that's print quality, then you could submit an art piece as well.
Oh,
Cool.
very good.
It just has to be, our requirement is it has to be related to Carbondale. It should be a photo that's taken in Carbondale or something of Carbondale, because we had some submissions from, like the top of Capitol Peak or whatever. That's not, we want it to represent our community. And we tend to not do Sopris photo because we did that the first year. So that we just don't want to overdo Sopris, but
Okay. Oh, I know a couple artists that might have a good.
this one
picture.
will be the 4th year.
So the Sopris last year was the.
We had Sopris, we have had Sopris, we had
4th of July
fire
parade.
truck, the fire trucks the 4th of July, and then we had a photo of the drum circle at Mountain Fair
Oh,
one year.
cool.
We had some really good ones last year of just like some of the murals in town. They just weren't edited or cropped well.
Uh-huh.
So you really want to look at the editing.
Presentation.
Presentation.
It's a puzzle, yeah.
I just wanted to compliment both of you for the turkey trot was amazing. And I think you guys do such an incredible job juggling all of thinking about the scope of this meeting alone and all of the different things that we've talked about. I think, Eric, I've seen you dressed as a turkey and an elf and flooding an ice rink all within the last 10 days. And I hope you know that people see that, and we're incredibly grateful for all the work that you put in, and I think it adds a lot to our community. So thank you.
Totally.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that, yeah. My wife's like, so what are you doing today? Putting cones in the park? And I'm like, yeah. That's gonna be part of the day.
Was that a grant?
Yeah.
Erica, do you have some?
Most of it is just, we've been working on budget. We, because of the changes we made last night, we have a Zoom call tomorrow at 4 PM to approve our budget. We have to approve a budget by December 15th, so we're really right up against the deadline. It'll go easier next year. We won't have a pool in the budget.
Hopefully not.
Right.
Hopefully not, yeah.
Or the remaining parts would be very different than this year. But I just wanted to highlight, just so you guys know, and we're gonna try and get this information out, that we are funding some really great initiatives that I'm really stoked about. We are continuing funding for the Downtowner, which if you haven't ridden it, super easy, spread the word. It's a great time of year to use it. Obviously continuing with WeCycle. I'm really gonna focus on our like green initiatives. We have the electrification grant for both the pool, but also for this building. And we're doing some other upgrades in the offices to just use the office space more efficiently and create more of a kind of maybe reception or entrance, just so people know who to talk to when they come in and they're not wandering the halls, looking where to take stuff. The police are including electric vehicles in their fleet, and we're installing, it's either 8 or 10 EV chargers out back here for the police. We're getting another all electric Ford Lightning, or 2 of them. We're getting 2 of them for parks and public works maintenance to replace some vehicles. It sounds like the crews really like the one we have. And then we do have money set aside to do another crossing on 133 where it's really needed. And then continuing to fund work to get ready for a roundabout. It's gonna be really expensive, but it takes lots of planning, and we need to acquire some right of ways on where it will go. But I just know that traffic in 133 is a really high priority for a lot of folks in town. So I just wanted to let you guys know. And then there is money for the Chacos Park planning, continuing the planning. So we have a lot going on, but also a lot of really cool things that we should be proud that our community is prioritizing, in my opinion. And other than that, that's really been in budget discussions for months now. It'll be nice to have our Zoom call tomorrow and finish it.
Thank you. Any commissioners have anything? Liza, you have something to tell us about? Yes. Well, what did you find out about on Saturday?
I got into my top choice college on Saturday. So, I'm excited about that.
Where is that?
It's Middlebury College in Vermont.
Awesome. Good for you.
So
Good
I'm
for
very
you.
excited. Yeah.
Well, if we're gonna also talk about staff, Erica's daughter, who's now working for our front desk, also had some exciting news.
Yes. She has been selected to be a Senate page.
Oh, cool.
So she'll be leaving her job at the rec center.
Of course. Wow. Does she know who she's gonna work
It's a
for?
lateral move, you know.
Yeah. True, yeah.
You get nominated by a senator, so she was nominated by Hickenlooper, and then he kind of oversees, or not he, his staff kind of oversees some of the work, but it's a whole program. They live in a dorm.
Cool.
They go to school, and then they go work in the Senate chambers every day.
Wow. Liza, that sounds like something you might want to put on your wish list one of these days. That's cool.
Well, and just speaking of people being gone in January, I don't know if you guys caught that Brian's wife is due in January, so he's gonna be out for solid 2 weeks and then in January, and then he'll be half in, half out for another 2 weeks. So basically January will be back down.
Oh, they're doing early January, well, whenever, who knows. Speaking of that, we have a couple of birthdays, which I've been really bad about doing. Anyway, Chris Gleason, our parks guy, his birthday's on the 16th, and Will Tempest is on the 29th. And Erica's, well, we'll see you before January 10th. So it's pretty funny because I told you guys I was going to send out the contact list and I found it in my outbox. So you will be getting, I'm like, really? I mean, I think I did that back in September or something, didn't I? Oh, God. Ugh, okay. If there's nothing else,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
all right, all in
Yes,
favor?
everyone.
Aye. Great. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.